Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on what area of the country you're in, and welcome to today's webinar, Managing Risk, E-commerce Security Strategies, with co-hosts from Crimson Agility, a full-service Magento services firm with an in-depth knowledge of Magento platform and e-commerce, a broad set of design, development, integration, and marketing skills, as well as years of industry experience in successful implementations. We also have with us Total Server Solutions, whom provides fully managed services or servers, data center space, server management services, and custom solutions to individuals and businesses. I'm going to go ahead and ask real quick before I go any further, if somebody can just put in the chat box that you can hear me, that would be great. All right. Well, I'm going to assume everyone can hear me. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot here on the screen on the right-hand side that shows an example of the attendee interface. You should see something like that on your screen on your computer desktop in the upper right-hand corner. You're listening in, if you're listening in using your computer speakers by default, if you would prefer to join over phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and dial-in information will be displayed. You will also have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions in the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. I would like to now introduce Adam Fabian, Director of Managed Services for Crimson Agility.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie, for the introduction. As Stephanie mentioned, my name is Adam Fabian. I'm a co-founder and the Managed Services Director here at Crimson Agility. I have worked with in the e-commerce industry for the last about 8 years. And during the better part of that last decade, I've kind of watched as e-commerce grew in popularity and capability. But along with that growth came the need for an evolution in security to combat a lot against the constantly growing threat of cybersecurity attacks. Over that time, these attacks have grown in both size and sophistication. And as a result, e-commerce platforms and the industry has had to take some measures to ensure that the customer data and privacy is protected. So starting with our first slide here, we're going to go, the first discussion is about e-commerce security, what it is, and why it's essential. So starting off kind of as a general understanding of e-commerce security, understanding the importance of security in a constantly evolving digital landscape can provide a secure foundation for any site owner. It's important when we talk about e-commerce security that we do focus on a few key areas. First and foremost, what it is and what does it protect? The obvious answer here with relation to e-commerce security is that it deals with customer privacy and security of data. This data encompasses all aspects of a customer's personally identifiable information. That's customer personal addresses, customer's first and last name, phone number, email address, and of course, payment information when dealing with transactions. And for the security of your customer, we have to ensure that data is always handled with care, properly managed, and stored properly for usage within the e-commerce platform, but also maintains enough of a distance between both the e-commerce site owner and the customer that the e-commerce site owner is not truly responsible for managing that data. And we'll get into discussions about how the platform assists with that process as well. But securing e-commerce site data isn't only beneficial to the customers who interact with the site, but also the e-commerce store owner. An online store that builds a reputation for properly handling customer data is going to breed additional success through word of mouth and reputation. So, and if that isn't enough, proper security, also protects the e-commerce site owner from having to pay for any damages that may result from a data breach. In my experience, I've seen a few data breaches in the past, and they can become costly fixes, especially with damages to customers or anything that comes from, the actual site damage itself. Can become a pretty sizable investment for customers if they don't handle the security in the proper way up front. And considering how powerful customers' transactional information can be, this number can spiral into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, talking about e-commerce security, the 4 pillars of e-commerce security, as I like to refer to them, are listed here on the second slide. And it deals with 4 key areas: site infrastructure, which Ricky will be dealing with here very shortly; utilization and maintenance of a secure platform; finding the right development partner and right team in your corner to help support your efforts; and establishing well-defined security process and protocols for your internal business. And so what I want to start off is I'm going to actually transition this over to Ricky for a discussion about site infrastructure and how Total Server Solutions can support you with your e-commerce site in that area.
Thanks, Adam. And before we switch it over to Ricky, we have a poll to share with you guys. Our first polling question is, how frequently does your hosting partner communicate on security issues and updates related to infrastructure? And the options, as soon as I post this, are going to be not at all, infrequently, appropriately, or the worst, only when I call. So in just a second, I will launch this for you. There you go. And please select the appropriate response and click submit. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to do that. Can everybody see the poll? Oh, there we go. All right, just waiting for a couple more people to respond to the poll, and I'll go ahead and close it out. All right, so it looks like 50% of you have responded, and of those, let's see, let me share the results from you. 50% say infrequently, and 50% say appropriately. So we're at a split there. Hopefully, Ricky, I'm sure, will kind of go over some of these points with you and let you know that, your provider should definitely be in contact with you more frequently. So without further ado, I will go ahead and tie these results and switch it over to Mr. Ricky Morris.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ricky Morris. As previously mentioned, I am the head of security at Total Server Solutions. Today we are going to talk about the importance of infrastructure. Before we continue though, note that infrastructure is everything that makes your website run. And if one piece is off, it may prevent you from reaching your goals. So why is infrastructure important? We're going to answer that question right after that, and then we'll talk about the things that make it important. With proper infrastructure, you follow the CIA triad, which is a security-based model. With proper infrastructure, you will have confidentiality. Your data will only be accessed to those that require it. An example of this would be access control lists within your networking equipment. Integrity, it assures that information you receive and send is trustworthy. Data encryption is a good example of integrity. Availability basically guarantees that your data is accessible. DDoS protection is another example of what ensures availability of your devices. So with proper planning, infrastructure can make the CIA triad possible. So we're going to talk about everything that makes your infrastructure now. These are just some of the important pieces to the infrastructure puzzle. Not everything, but the important pieces. Facility, that's where your physical hardware is stored. It is definitely a key component to achieving your goals. Ensuring that your your facility follows the governance, which is the next piece that you select, be it SOC, HIPAA, PCI, or any other standards, protocols that you might have. Selecting a provider that utilizes facilities that meet those requirements is incredibly important. You want to find a partner that shares the same goals that you do. Talking about governance, creating your own policies and procedures is incredibly important, and ensuring that your employees or whomever is running or maintaining your site understands them. Your servers and networking equipment are another component. This is basically the hardware that will allow you to build your e-commerce platform. The application portion would be services that are required to achieve your goals. Your website platform like Magento or Shopify are some examples of your applications. And with all this in mind, we'll go a little deeper into some of the infrastructure elements that are important to protect your environment. Plus, most of these requirements on this list are required for PCI compliance. Having an appliance like a SIM or an IDS, it might seem like overkill, but everything it does can prevent you from shelling out the expense of a compromise. Firewalls, they're a key element of protection for all e-commerce stores. Vulnerability scanning, being able to determine weakness within your infrastructure. Backups are incredibly crucial. I don't know how many times I've seen instances where someone didn't have the best backup solution, or they didn't test it and just figured it was working and ended up losing data because of it. Your e-commerce platform, definitely one of the most important selections on this list. You want to find a platform that meets your governance goals and partners that know how to solve any compliance needs. Magento is obviously one of the big examples of finding an e-commerce platform. As mentioned previously, the facility, making sure you find a location that has the capacity to meet your needs, be it power, cooling, compliance. And to close things out here, working with knowledgeable partners is important. With knowledge, you'll have a partner maybe that has certifications and accolades in specific areas. They'll have a better understanding of what you need to reach your goal. Experience, the e-commerce business changes every day. There are new regulations that come, by the minute it seems sometimes. Last year was GDPR, which, if anybody remembers, was a lot of work to put together, modifying internal controls, how European data is stored and handled. I personally spent months with auditors and attorneys just ensuring that the policies I created were meeting requirements. These last 2 years, there have been some significant changes in the SOC standards. Legacy TLS is no longer being accepted, having to ensure that, that is disabled. Very, important aspect. This year, or this coming year, CCPA on January 1st, 2020, if you have customers in California, you should definitely be making plans, if you haven't already, to make changes to your policies. October 29th, so you don't have a lot of time. But having partners that have this experience comes with trust. And in my opinion, trust is the glue to a successful relationship. And as mentioned at the start, the CIA triad is met when your infrastructure is built right. Now I'm going to turn the mic back to Crimson Agility. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much, Ricky. All right, before we turn it back over to Adam Fabian, we're going to take one more poll. So our second polling question is, what e-commerce platform do you use? And some of the options are Magento, Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, or other. So please select the appropriate response and click submit. I know you guys use an e-commerce platform. There we go. Give it just a couple more minutes. Got 50% over 50% have responded so far. Would love to know what e-commerce platform you guys are using. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so it looks like everyone on our call is using Magento. So with that information, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back to Adam Fabian so he can discuss e-commerce security.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephanie. Going back to the 4 pillars of what we discussed earlier in the importance of e-commerce security, the second step in this process is choosing a secure platform. Based on the results of our poll, seeing everyone has chosen Magento as a platform, I'll speak from that point of view and talk about why Magento is a good choice for that process. Obviously, one of the biggest factors affecting e-commerce security is which platform you decide to build your site upon. In this case, we've chosen Magento. Most of us have, or if we haven't chosen one, still considering. But using Magento does assist in that process making it simpler for any site implementer. They obviously continue to upgrade their system, evolve with vulnerabilities as they become available or become known. They continue to patch as systems grow, and they're constantly dealing with new technologies that are coming out. They were one of the first ones to start adopting 7.2, even on their older platform of Magento 1. Magento 2 supports all of the latest protocols in all browsers, and it continues to utilize newer JavaScript technologies and continue to block security vulnerabilities as it grows. And that's what you want from a good platform. An e-commerce platform should continuously strive to keep up with ever-changing technology. As systems become more powerful, the threats also become greater. Security flaws can be exposed pretty quickly. We have seen things such as DDoS attacks. We have seen, constant bots hitting the website, spam, things like that. And an interesting fact to note is that most e-commerce or most security breaches have actually happened to small businesses. Cybercrimes are not really targeting larger businesses. That is a myth. 97% of all data breaches have actually occurred with small businesses. And so choosing a platform for your business does help with that process in alleviating some of the concern as to whether or not your site is going to begin on the right foot with security in place. And things like Magento and having those platforms in place will assist in that process. So moving on to the second items here, we want to talk about why having a developer assists in that process, or having a development partner assists with your security efforts. So using a platform like Magento does give you that sense of security, considering that they are always looking for vulnerabilities and trying to block them or staying current with technologies. But it can't always be done by the client themselves. You're not capable of supporting them all. There's a lot of coding that gets involved in these types of processes. And so finding the right development partner is definitely a must in continuing with your security efforts. I'll use Magento specifically considering the results of the poll, but Magento's ecosystem contains a large number of certified developers across the globe. It also contains well-vetted partners who have been tried and tested over the years with both the Magento 1 platform and Magento 2 during its evolution. And they have a great support system in finding those right partners that will assist you in the process. We personally here at Crimson Agility have dealt with clients who have dealt with security breaches in the past, and we are well versed in finding what that issue was, solving it for the customer, and providing them with a platform that is going to be stable and help them scale into the future. One of the things you want from a trusted partner is the right technical skills and expertise. Like I mentioned, a certified developer and a stable of certified developers assist in that. Magento does a very good job of testing their partners and ensuring that they're only recommending ones who have passed those certifications or continue to challenge themselves by stepping outside of the certifications they've already gained to, expand their knowledge base. Additionally, you want a trusted partner who is going to provide you with consultation and industry knowledge. Just understanding Magento is a large part of the battle, but understanding the evolution of an e-commerce platform, the new challenges that it's going to face as it continues to grow, how the industry is trending, and even new attacks that are coming up. One of the specific attacks that we have noticed very recently is something called carding. On Magento, PayPal can be used as an in-browser credit card form where customers can go to the checkout, enter their information directly into the checkout itself for PayPal, and they will process it as a card processor. New attacks have started targeting that form and continuously hitting it with spammed information. So what that does is it actually PayPal will recognize that that's an attack. It will shut down their account and say, you're trying too many fraudulent transactions. So we have to suspend your account. Well, Magento as a whole started by first putting a reCAPTCHA on that form to ensure that it could block that information. But that wasn't available right away. And watching as carding evolved, we as a partner had to do something for our customers. And we implemented a piece that would first implement reCAPTCHA before it became an official patch, but we also limited the amount of attempts in the 30-second time span. Normal customers will not be attempting their transaction 15 to 20 times in a 30-second time span. They'll try it once or twice, and then they'll try to re-enter their information, which puts them outside of that window. So having that kind of understanding of what attacks are out there, what vulnerabilities do exist, and how you can mitigate those types of risk for your customer is something you definitely want to have in a development partner when you're supporting your e-commerce site. Again, here we also have certified developers, but that leads right into the fourth bullet there, which says health and security audits. A new an e-commerce site should not be satisfied with their security level and consider it done for, and once you do it once, it's not a finished process. It's a continuously evolving process. So a health and security audit is something that a development partner should continuously do. Be able to ensure that the security is withholding against vulnerabilities, ensure that your site is not degrading in its performance or that it's not being affected by new things as time goes on. And performing those audits can also be helpful in finding ways to improve the site. What is the performance of the website doing? Have we added too many security protocols that are causing our customers to have a difficult time in checking out? And also, we want to make sure that, your code is safe, your security is safe, and that goes right along with the infrastructure part that Ricky was talking about as well. Having the right protocols in place, having the right support team, even on the technical side with the infrastructure as well, can really alleviate any of the stress that an e-commerce site owner might face when considering whether their customer data is secure, whether their platform is going to be secure, and whether they can continue to rely on that platform into the future. And the last bullet here is probably the biggest one as well, probably the biggest of these five here, which is what happens in the worst case scenario where your site is compromised? Who do you turn to? Do you have the right team in place to do a disaster recovery or response to what's going on? And that's, having the right partner with that who can actually step in, discover the source of the issue, discover the source of where close the loophole where the vulnerability exists, repair the damage that may have been done by anybody coming in and executing these vulnerabilities, and finding a way to prevent that from happening in the future and even improve the ecosystem of the platform for all Magento sites it's an asset that you just need to have on your team. It will definitely give you a sense of peace that, something has gone wrong. I have that team that I can rely on, both on infrastructure and on the platform side, to rely on. So the right development partner can't be understated. It needs to be someone that you can rely on that has that certified knowledge, the industry understanding, and understands what a vulnerability is and how to prevent it from happening, and can set you up from the very beginning, or even evolve with you as it goes on if you've already established that platform to grow into the future. So the fourth pillar here, and I think we've kind of been switching back and forth here, but the fourth pillar here is going to be establishing protocols. This was mentioned by Ricky as well. He mentioned, with your infrastructure protocols, you need to make sure that you have, who has access, who can make these changes on the server, who is capable of being on these different devices so they understand how your IT infrastructure works. And that's going to be the same for your platform. You have to establish a security protocol in your company to ensure that security is never at risk. One of the biggest things here that we see most times with our security breaches that happen with sites that we've worked with are user-based security issues. That would stem from a user has access to data that they shouldn't have access to. In Magento, they have user roles and user permissions, the ACL routes that could be used to, control what a user is capable of doing. That allows the owner of the website to establish their salesperson is only capable of seeing sales orders or invoices or shipments. The same could be said for an admin. You may have one individual admin user, but that admin has complete global access to control everything within the Magento backend. And that's the same for you want to make sure that access rights and those user roles are always strictly enforced. The same with an obvious one that we see a lot is shared logins. That should not exist. Ensuring that you have one person with one set of responsibilities allows for you to track, if you're using the Commerce Edition at least, track what a user is doing within the admin. What settings are they changing? What items have they updated? And it provides responsibility to the person as well. Password standards are also extremely important. We want to make sure that your passwords are not being reused on multiple websites. That's a pretty standard protocol for browsers and just general customer login. But utilizing the same password across users is not going to ensure that your users are secure. It could be easily guessed. It could be brute force broken. And those are all just standard processes that should be existing anywhere within Magento, whether they have multiple customer logins, whether they have admin logins. Those passwords should try to be unique and secure and difficult to guess to ensure that security level is high. Data security policies, which are listed here, this is more about sharing customer information and ensuring that we are not taking in customer payment information. Customer payment information should always be encrypted, or in the case of new technologies, tokenization, data information shouldn't even be available at all within the system or within the external system. Using tokenization, which is a new industry standard, basically the tokenization between the old version and now allows for that data to be transferred to the payment processor, stored within the payment processor, and the only thing that's brought back to Magento in that transaction is actually a reference number so that the system can reference to the payment processor what information it's actually discussing. That completely offloads the information from Magento, ensuring that the security is actually placed away from the platform and onto the payment processor itself. Additionally, you don't want to be able to handle customer passwords in a data security policy. Magento 1, that was something you could do. You could reset the password to something you actually knew. Somebody could update the password in the back end. Since that time, with the evolution of the platform, it has required you to reset the password. So the owner of the account requires receiving an email so that they have to log into that email account and then reset their own password. So basically, what you try to set with these data security policies is ensure that the responsibility of the data management should only be required by the person whose data it applies to. If it's customer data, it should be applicable to the customer who is actually placing the orders or creating the accounts. If it's an admin's password, it should be only that admin's password, and they should be responsible for that information. And the last one here, it does relate back to your development partner and your infrastructure partner, and they should be keeping you aware. Our first poll there mentioned that you get infrequent updates from your hosting partner, and but some of them are adequate amount of updates, and they should be updating you as well as should your development partner about any new vulnerabilities or risks within the industry or even to the platform. But it is a protocol that we want to make sure we are aware, your internal operations are aware of any vulnerabilities. Magento does a good job of providing messages at the top of the browser or at the top of the admin to ensure that if a patch comes out, it lets you know, or if you're a part, if you are using the Commerce Edition, they will inform you through email that Magento has had an update to it. But keeping abreast of industry standards can assist the development partner, as sometimes they may not be able to get to it immediately and let you know that issue is something they need to solve. It's a good idea to keep that kind of information close, so that your team can be aware if something starts to look off. They know that there's some sort of vulnerability that's there as well. A few other quick notes. You want to, with security protocols, you do want to start using as much security levels as possible. If there's a higher level than what you have, you should probably consider going to that level. An example of that would be two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication has been available for some time now, but it is only become available in Magento 2, and now it is something that I recommend to all of our clients. Two-factor authentication is just an extra added layer of security that requires the person who's logging in to have a physical device to ensure that they can validate that they are the person that they state they are. Another level of security would be something along the lines of a web application firewall, or something along the lines of Cloudflare or StackPath, which allows for you to whitelist your IP addresses and block those external IP addresses from being attacked by bots, or recognize when they're being hit with a DDoS attack, or create page rules so that only specific IP addresses can access the admin, and thus further securing and supporting the infrastructure security that's already in place. So kind of a summary to go back really quickly. The 4 pillars we were talking about here are the infrastructure for a website needs to be secure. Using a hosting partner and having them, support you can really aid in that process. Total Server Solutions has supported a number of our clients, and we've been extremely happy with their process for that. You definitely want to utilize and maintain your secure platform. In this case, all of our attendees seem to be using Magento. We highly recommend continuing to apply the patches that come out from the Magento platform and ensuring that you're upgraded to the current version to ensure all vulnerabilities are closed or that they've been, at least addressed. We want to make sure, as an internal site owner, you want to make sure that you find the right development partner, someone who has certified knowledge, who has industry knowledge, experience, and can provide you with that level of comfort and security and trust, so that you know that if something was to happen, or if you feel like something might happen, they can be proactive and reactive at the same time to ensure that they help you grow and protect your site. And then you also want to create and establish well-defined security processes and protocols to ensure anybody that's utilizing the website or interacts with the website internally is aware of how to keep your data safe, how to keep your data from reaching the people who don't have access to it or shouldn't have access to it, and also so that you can grow and be assured that whoever is interacting with it is maintaining those protocols as well. Okay, so
All right.
I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie.
Yes, thank you so much, Adam. All right, I'm going to go back to this this slide that did not show in the beginning because I had a little bit of technical difficulties, which is completely normal when you're trying to do something perfect. So again, your attendee control panel that you'll see here on the left-hand side, this is where you can ask your questions because we're coming up to Q&A right now. And we also have some handouts that you can feel free to download. There's one on Crimson Agility, and then there's also a data sheet provided by Total Server Solutions. So again, this is where you put all your questions, respond to your polls or whatever it might be. But now, before I go into Q&A, I just want to inject a little humor here. Here at Crimson Agility, we are a pet-friendly office. We love bringing our pets into work. We have a great time with them, easing stress sometimes, maybe increasing it. And then we also even have a Secret Life of Pets Slack channel where we put all these pet facts. So I'm curious for our audience, are you a dog or a cat person? So go ahead, fill that in real quick, and just a little bit of humor for our day before we move on to the rest of it. So I'll leave this open for a few minutes. Please choose dog, cat, or maybe you just don't like pets. All right, some people are voting. All right, we're getting some more. Yes. All right, and I'm going to close this down in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so 100% of you guys, dogs. 100% Magento, 100% dogs. Maybe there's a correlation there. So Thanks for answering that question. And now we would like to answer some of your questions. So please go ahead in your little control panel there under questions. You can go ahead and expand it if it's not expanded already, and just click the little triangle and expand it. And please submit your questions. I'll give you guys a few minutes. You guys can ask any questions that you have, maybe on Total Server Solutions as a company, as a service provider, or Crimson Agility. Anything, maybe you're thinking of moving from Magento 1 to Magento 2 and you're just not sure of how you're going to do that. So, anything that you want to ask, please go ahead. We have our first question here from Rocco Botto. What are your thoughts on using a cloud-based firewall like Cloudflare in conjunction with an endpoint or WAF firewall? I am going to let Ricky take a stab at this first, and then Adam follow up with any other information. Again, the question was, what are your thoughts of using a cloud-based firewall like Cloudflare in conjunction with an endpoint WAF firewall?
So using an endpoint WAF plus Cloudflare, I think it might be kind of redundant. May not, performance-wise, may not give you what you need. I think something like Cloudflare definitely is a good direction to go in. I wouldn't recommend using two. I know that they're different, but they do similar tasks. I would suggest against it.
Okay. Adam, any feedback?
Yeah, I'll chime in there. I believe that Cloudflare kind of classifies itself as a WAF, since it anonymizes all traffic through Cloudflare's DNS protocols. I tend to 100% agree with Ricky there. It's having multiple WAFs installed, one directly on the server and Cloudflare above it. It's going to just complicate the ability for traffic to make it through. Probably most affected by something like that would be API connections, or potentially any kind of, I guess, internal or external, incoming or outgoing connection is going to be affected by having duplicate layers of security. So it may require much more configuration. It's probably possible, but recommended, I'd say no.
All right. Any other questions from the audience? Have a couple more minutes here. I would love to give back some free time, but I would also want to make sure that we answer any questions you might have. And of course, you guys all know we're both Crimson and Total Server Solutions are here for you all the time to answer any questions you might have. So I'm going to go ahead and move on, and thank you, Adam and Ricky, for all of your knowledge, and thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar, Managing Risks, eCommerce Security Strategies. If you have any other questions, please contact either myself, Stephanie McLeod, at the information that you have on your screen, or Jessica Mott from Total Server Solutions. Her information is on the screen as well. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate it if you would complete that and provide your feedback. It literally will take you 2 seconds. So you'll also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar and share with all of your friends, all of your family, whoever you want to share it with. So on behalf of Crimson Agility and Total Server Solutions and our presenters, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.